here's Brody Brazil.
Just wanted to say thank you for the mass amount of voicemails that I've now started to get at the brand new phone number 8334-BRODY. Problem is, so many voicemails that I can't possibly get to using all of them. I'm listening to almost all of them, but some are duplicates, some are topics I've already gone over, some are just a timing issue and situation. I'm sharing all this because if you've already called and if you've already left a great voicemail that I have not yet used here for a video on the channel, please don't take it personal. Please don't be discouraged. Please continue to call in when something good strikes your mind, because eventually I will get to you.
Hi, Brody. This is Brian from Levittown, New York. Thanks so much for keeping us all updated on possible relocation and expansion. My question, though, is about the Major League Baseball All-Star Game and this somewhat antiquated rule that each team must have at least one representative.
Right.
I think it's, with this day and age of national TV exposure or social media and whatnot, it's not like we're going to forget the Rockies and Marlins exist if they don't have a player, even though I don't believe that there is one player who's above, a guy like Juan Soto or Seiya Suzuki. Let me know what you think. Thank you.
Brian, thank you. This is a great conversation starter. I think you make very fair points. I'll just share that I've been on your side and I've taken your position for many years now that baseball and the All-Star Game selection process, the team selection process, it does need an overhaul. Why are we trying to make sure that every team is involved? We want to make sure that we don't hurt anybody's feelings? Or is this a business thing? Is this a marketing thing? Probably a marketing thing, and not so much about the All-Star Game, but the lead into the All-Star Game. If you know that every team, good or bad, is going to get at least one, then you're not closing out some markets from the, All-Star buildup or fan conversation. So let me just try and run down all of my different thoughts on this. And again, I agree there should be an overhaul, but I'm actually also okay with all-star snubs who exist because of their position. In a sense, if there are log jams like in the American League at third base, if there's like 5 really good third basemen in the American League and only 2 are going to get in, one's a starter, one's a reserve, and if you're third on the depth chart, well, then you just don't get in. That's how it goes in the American League at third base in some years. And I'm actually bringing up this example because I had a firsthand experience with it. I covered Eric Chavez in the 2000s when he did not make a single All-Star team after winning, 6 straight Gold Gloves. He was one of the best defensive and sometimes offensive third basemen in baseball at that point, but he just never got into an All-Star game. If you can believe it, Xavi was never an All-Star. Hard to fathom from what I saw in reverse, but that's because of the position he played. Somebody always got in ahead of him. That's just kind of the way it goes. I'm also here to say, too, that fans should still have a majority of interest in the voting or a large amount of it, but I also think that players, like the ones actually understanding who's who and what's what, they should also have an equal say in the selection process. More on that later on in the video. But again, I understand if players don't get in because of the position they play. If they do get in because of the team they play on, then that's not great. If we are reaching to make sure that every team gets involved, I don't think that's the way it should go for a Major League Baseball All-Star Game. If this were Little League and we're talking about youth baseball, totally different story. If we're trying to make it fair for kids, obviously, I'm very much okay with that. In fact, I would encourage that. But that's not where we're at here with grown adults in professional sports, understanding that it shouldn't hurt your feeling if you're not in the All-Star Game. And I've covered teams, honestly, who should have had 5 All-Stars and only got 1. Maybe 2 in baseball. I've also covered teams who should have no All-Stars and had 1. And when they got named, you're like, cool, they're doing okay this year, but we can all read the writing on the wall of why they were named. There's no better choice. Now, I can also bring up the A's for another example. This season, they're on pace to lose about 100 games. And they somehow have 2 representatives on their team. Jacob Wilson is the starting shortstop in the American League, and Brent Rooker, yet again named to an All-Star team. I don't know that he's having his best season ever, but therein lies another conversation here. Should the All-Star selection process be based on the team's success that they're on, right? Because we understand teams with a worse record are going to have less contenders for All-Star nods and nominations. But the point is what happens if it's a really good player on a really bad team? We probably also shouldn't hold that really bad team against them. But my whole point here in going down this road is that if we're trying to make sure that every team gets somebody involved and we're limiting an opportunity for somebody else who deserves it just to make sure that every team is present for the All-Star game, I don't see the need. To your point, we're in 2025. We're not forgetting about these teams. We're not crossing them off like they don't exist. They just don't get any players invited to the All-Star game. Now, there are two sides of it. I'm also here to say that there should probably be a cap on how many players get invited from each team. I never really want to see the entire Yankees infield representing the All-Star game of the American League. I don't really ever want that to happen. More on that in just a second. But the question we have to ask ourselves in choosing an All-Star team, are these really the best players in each league? That would be an All-Star situation. Or are we saying, all right, there's 30 teams. We need to make sure that we get at least one from each team. So we're basically taking the MVP of each team and trying to make these puzzle pieces fit into a roster where you can put it together and say, all right, that's enough to field a team. We can throw off this exhibition game without a hitch, and we'll kind of bend and not break some things, but we'll kind of just slam all this together and see if it works. Is it an all-star game, or is this a collaboration and a coalition of MVPs? What is it? Because if it's an all-star game, the team they play for type thing should not be as much of a consideration. Now, some teams, like I said before, they don't have any all-stars. Like they've got a bad record, they've got a couple players doing well, but if you look at what is an all-star, like here in 2025, they don't really meet that bar. But they might be there because of, again, nobody else on their team is even in that worthy enough conversation, or somebody got hurt, or whatever the situation is. It's hard when it comes down to that. But my opposite point is that I could see this going the other direction. If you really don't put some kinds of limits on it, who wants to send their entire outfield or their entire infield or 4 of their pitchers? That's another one, right? To the All-Star game. That's not fair to really good teams that their players not only don't get a break, but then have to go participate in an All-Star game, which again means what here in 2025? That should be a separate video, and it will be eventually. How do we make All-Star games across all leagues even relevant again or watchable again? Because I think we've slipped to the point in all the leagues right now where they could all use a bit of an overhaul. And I'm not talking about 4 nations in hockey. I'm talking about an actual prototypical All-Star game. They just don't necessarily work anymore. Anyway, separate video. But the final point here I want to make is that I truly prefer players being a majority of the decision of who makes the All-Star team and who doesn't. Do players actually care about the experience of going to an All-Star game? Maybe if it's their first time, or playing in the All-Star game. I suppose it's nationally televised, all eyes on baseball or on this game, but after your first time, probably doesn't mean as much. It means more to be named to the All-Star team than it does to play in the All-Star game, if that makes sense. But what I'm saying here in total is that I would prefer players to have a larger share of making these rosters. Fans can still be involved. If it's 50-50 players and fans, fine, we're good. That's all I need to hear. But right now, it feels like it's mostly the fans. And then baseball kind of has this secret behind the curtain way of filling in and polishing the rosters at the very end. Players do get some say, but so do managers. I think some baseball executives do and media do. I don't really want all that. I want to make this process entirely transparent. I'd love to see maybe fans can pick the starters and players can pick the reserves in that order to make sure that everybody who should be in this All-Star game actually gets named to the respective All-Star team. So again, the rule, the kind of unwritten rule, but it's out there. We follow it every year that each team needs to have a representative. I would love to do away with that. Honestly, it should not hurt anybody's feelings here in 2025 if you're not included. That's just the way it could and should go. Although I don't see baseball changing this anytime soon. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Also, thumbs up while you're down there. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'd love to see you back here next time.